It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight reviews of Frozen, Three Small Irish Masterpieces, and Angels in America, Parts 1 and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And hello again.
Hi, Charlie.
How you doing?
Oh, better tonight, thank you. Not quite so tired.
Glad to hear it. Well, we're going to start with a show. I don't know why we're bothering. Is anybody going to care what we say? Listen, this is a show that's going to run forever no matter what we say. But the fact...
Probably.
Now, I remember seeing the movie for the first time, and I kept thinking to myself, what is all the fuss about? And my daughter, who I think was 20 at the time, explained, well, you see, Daddy, you're not a 9-year-old girl. But let me tell you, I went to see this, and this is expanded, revised, basically the same creative team, Christian Anderson, Lopez, Robert Lopez, and Jennifer Lee, who did the movie. And it's been expanded, new songs, it's been refined, it's been rewritten, and, well, you don't have to be a 9-year-old girl to enjoy it.
I don't think it needed to be expanded. I think it ran a tad long for what it was. I didn't see any little girls shifting in their seats, and there were plenty of little girls, so I guess this older girl was having a problem with that. But I never saw the movie, and I brought a young lady who was only 12 and grew up with it. It was in her DNA from the time her mother could put it in front of a TV set.
Right.
So she loved it. She didn't want to talk on camera when we were doing our first impression, but she loved it. She said it was the best show I ever took her to, and I took her to a lot of shows. She thought SpongeBob was pretty good too, though. But I think,
so did a lot of people, just not us.
I think, well, I like it.
All right.
Oh,
You
anyway,
liked it, I was lukewarm.
I think that this, from the pictures I saw from the movie, always, and from the little snippets I saw, absolutely translated the feeling and the characters to the stage. Not the way I wish, but not the way that Julie Taymor did with Lion King, where it was absolutely immersive and wonderful, but very, very well. It really follows very much the script of the movie and
Yes,
just expanded.
it absolutely does. But what was weak is now better. I mean, just the relationship between the two girls. These are two sisters, Elsa and Anna. Elsa, this is based on the Ice Queen, although it has really no resemblance to the original to the original story. Elsa is the older sister, and she has these ice powers, which she accidentally uses on Anna, and then she's forbidden by her parents to use them, which turns out to be a problem later on in life because she really just can't control it, or she can't hold it. She can't hold it back.
Well, the girls are okay.
And Anna is unaware of this, and so she doesn't understand why all of a sudden her older sister, who she had so much fun with, who has always been her best friend, is now won't come near
withholding.
her.
She withholds herself for fear of hurting her.
And what I love is that, as the father of two daughters, I can say they've got the older sister, little sister dynamic very, very well. Cassie Levy, Patty Murin, just do these roles so beautifully. Even, you may think, well, they're not quite little young teenagers, and I think you might notice that, but you don't care because
they have younger people play them to start, and then they grow up. So they're older.
The adults. On the night I saw it, it was Mata Conforti as young Anna and Brooklyn Nelson as young Elsa. Wonderful performances by each. I think.
And we have a friend in the cast, Robert Creighton, who played Cagney, plays the sort of villain, not villain. He's a little guy who wants to be the handsome prince, but isn't.
Yes.
And he starts out sort of being a villain, and then at the end becomes a hero of sorts. So he's okay.
Right. And it turns what this show has been lauded for is it turns the Disney love at first sight thing on its head.
Yes, this is not about finding a mate; it's about finding a sister.
Right, but also about finding yourself, learning to be who you are, and rather than repress it, learn to deal with it and see the good in it, and make something of it. And it's got all the songs that you love. Do you want to build a snowman and let it go?
Oh, and it's got an Olaf.
Yes.
And the guy playing Olaf is so good.
Yes.
It's a take on Avenue Q almost. It's a puppet.
It's Greg Heldeth operating a snowman puppet, so you'll have no trouble figuring out all of in.
But he does all of Greg Hildreth.
He does the voice, he does the movements.
And he's got this lovely little sound to him, and he's got a round cherubic face.
And 2 minutes in, you will not remember that there's a guy behind.
And Sven, the reindeer, is played by someone named Andrew Peruzzi, who is absolutely gorgeous according to this picture. He never takes his head off to show us.
And I think all the characters are enhanced. I think Sven is shortchanged in this production.
Oh, really?
Well,
I see. I don't know.
Based on him in the movie. And then, of course, there's Christoph. He's a guy who sells ice and all of a sudden finds himself in a kingdom that's forever winter.
Right.
Kind of a problem, but and that's Jelani Aladdin, who comes to Anna's aid, and well, he becomes the prince. In that
he does, but again, this is not the romantic. There are little hints of it, but that's not what this is about. And then there's the nude spa scene, which I don't understand, which I understand was not in the movie, and I don't know why they put it into the play.
Yes, they are wearing body stockings.
Yes, they are, but they're pretending not to.
Right.
And I think it might be very confusing. They say don't bring anybody under 8, or was it 11? I don't know. Anyway,
I think it's under 8.
But they don't want this for really small children. And I think even 8 is a little confused by the nude body stocking scene. But
I think they'll figure it out.
But that said, a lot of fun.
I enjoyed the staging. I think the only Disney play that has been staged better is The Lion King. Here, it's a matter of stagecraft and technology. The Lion King was just pure stagecraft.
You don't think that Beauty and the Beast did a great job?
I think Beauty and the Beast is the best as far as score and lyrics are and story are concerned. Beauty and the Beast is the best. As far as staging is concerned, it has to be hands down The Lion King.
Michael Grandage, who is a British director not known for musicals. He's known for things like Frost Nixon, and he's won a Tony, and he's won an Olivier. And he's a serious director. Along with Rob Ashford, the choreographer, both of them Tony winners. This is who they brought in.
And I would not be surprised if they win Tonys for this.
No, but this is who they brought in, and it's such a surprise. I mean, with the number of Casey Nicola, I would have seen doing this. Of course, he's doing Mean Girls across the street. So
we'll be talking about that
around the
shortly.
corner. Yes, but the point is that I would see Casey Nicola before I would have seen someone like Michael Grandage. And that being said, he did a lovely job.
It's an excellent.
Yeah.
It brings the show to its full potential, and it outdoes the movie.
So what do we give it?
I'm going to give this a full 5.
Whoa. I'm torn.
For what it is. I mean,
I have no reason not to give it a 5. Quite honestly, I mean, I was very entertained.
Yes.
My little friend really enjoyed it.
My daughter, who's 23, also enjoyed it.
Right, and I did have a good time, and I didn't fall asleep. And so all of those things. Yeah, and it was well done. It really was well done. And good for the Lopez's. They did a fantastic job.
Yes.
They have a career both on Broadway and in the movies, which is wonderful. Yes. Like Alan Menken and the others who have come before them are able to do that.
Who did the score of Beauty and the Beast and
exactly.
Aladdin?
Well, I thought I'd bring it around. Yeah. So anyway, good. Then we can move on to something.
We can.
We did an interview recently with
Charlotte
Moore of the Irish Repertory Theatre, and we also went to see this incredibly delightful, very small, in the studio space where we also saw It's a Wonderful Life, also directed by Charlotte Moore.
Right.
She put together 3 small Irish masterpieces. They are basically one-act plays by the people who founded the concept of Irish theater and the Abbey Theatre itself. And they are, if you can't see these people, I'm sure, but this is William Butler Yeats, Lady Gregory, and John Millington Synge. And the stories are The Pot of Broth, which I had not ever seen or read before, but it's based on Stone Soup. That story tells itself. The little guy comes in, he doesn't have anything to eat. He takes a stone out of his pocket, he puts it in the water, he tells the woman he's going to make broth. She'll just give him a carrot.
Yes, and he eventually winds up with the kitchen.
Stew
and the interesting thing, he's got this woman totally bamboozled. But here's the thing, her husband is standing right there, and he sees right through the guy, and he's just smiling, just watching his wife who says, I know what's right.
And because she's greedy, she falls for this. The second play by Lady Gregory is called The Rising of the Moon. And The Rising of the Moon is about a trickster. and the Irish love their tricksters. And the Rising of the Moon, of course, is a famous rebel song. We'll meet at the rising of the moon, and it's about how the trickster tricks the policeman and gets away and
Well, he doesn't. I don't think he tricks him.
The
no.
policeman figures out who he is, but he gets away.
It's does he convince the policeman of his cause? The policeman is giving up a major reward to let this guy go.
Yes. But he's also he goes to his Irish pride, and getting the Irish pride is what makes him do it. And that's
so he's not really tricked into it.
The third story is The Riders to the Sea, which is the only one I had ever seen before. I'd seen a college production of it, and The Riders to the Sea is the standard, what we look at as the standard Irish play, not the kind that go to the pub. The ladies, it's like Dancing at Lunasa, the women who are left behind when the men go off to sea, and they're waiting to find out whether Michael is dead or not dead, and if he is dead, did he have a good death, and did the sea take him? And stuff that is so just turns.
I have to say, I was disappointed with all three of these plays.
Well, let me just say one thing. Okay. What Charlotte did was to put them together in a continuum on the same set with just moving stuff around.
Yes.
So it took 85 minutes to do all three of them with no intermission, which I felt as a director was a really wonderful way to do it. Were you not impressed by the work or by the plays themselves?
I didn't. I was really impressed with the plays themselves. Even though I know the Stone Soup story, I like the story.
Didn't start in Ireland. It started way before then.
Yeah, and I wasn't impressed. The acting was decent enough, but I didn't find. I found it mildly amusing, and that's about it. The second one, even though it was very short, to me went on a little too long. I suddenly found myself losing interest in it. Oh, just bring him in already,
which he doesn't do.
Which he does not.
There you
do.
are.
And that's fine. But he may have convinced the policeman. He didn't convince me. And the third one I felt was just simply too much of a downer.
It's melodramatic. It's the grandmother of all melodramatic pieces.
Nothing mellow about it. And it really.
But here's the thing.
And it doesn't build to it, and it's just. Oh, agony, agony. And it really, to me, never got me to that point. You feel sorry for them.
These three playwrights did two things. First of all, they were all well-bred and well-educated, and what they did was to go back to the language of the people. This is done with Irish brogues. It's done with the kind of country talk that people talked. It's the streets of Dublin. It's not the educated classes.
Well, fortunately, they did not overdo it with the accents. So it's like when we saw Pig and
we were able to understand it all. Yes, I know.
You don't have a problem with that.
But and also there was music added to it. There were some of the well-known folk songs added to it.
A nice touch, but really, this needed just so much more. Maybe it's an academically important, but as an entertainment value, which is. Frankly, when I was coming to the theater that night, I was disappointed.
I was grateful they weren't set in a pub. That was my number two thing on the list.
Yes.
And I was really happy to see them because they are plays that I have read and never really seen except for one college production. I was happy with them. I would give it a nice solid 4. I wouldn't
come anywhere near that.
Okay.
I would give it 2. I was very disappointed because I loved what they did with It's a Wonderful Life a little
that's
earlier.
Apples and Oranges. I mean, that's an adaptation of a movie, and this is putting together 3 absolutely disparate pieces and making them into a continuum of early Irish theater. Ta-da! That's my... Okay, moving right along.
Moving right along to something that has nothing to do with Irish theater.
No.
Or the Irish, for that matter.
No. There's nobody Irish in this, is there?
I don't think so. We've got Jews.
Mormons.
We've got Mormons. We've got blacks. We've got...
and homosexuals.
Yes. Quite a few of those.
Yes.
But no Irish. Interesting.
Well, the old expression, no Irish need apply.
Well, they've said the same thing about Jews and gays at one point. But this is Angels in America. This is... Talk about your history in the theater. This is considered, I guess, the quintessential gay play. Certainly not the first, but the touchstone to the era that it comes from. And it's got some company because you had Falsetto Land, you had sex, you had love, valor, compassion, which I think.
What you're talking about is the AIDS crisis, and that's
Yes.
that's the part.
Well, that's where.
Yes.
And to see it today, and I did see the original, and just to see it today, where it is such the attitudes toward gays and have changed. It's interesting. This one of the characters is Roy Cohn, based on the actual work, and he says, and Roy Cohn was gay, but he was closeted, and he said, you know why? I'm a guy who has sex with men, but I'm not homosexual. You know why? They have no power. Well, today, if that were his rationale, Roy Cohn would probably be parading it.
Well, very possibly. You never know.
And this is, Roy Cohn is one of the characters in here, played by Nathan Lane, and it's kind of there were kind of three segments here. It's Roy Cohn versus everybody. And there is Harper and Joseph Pitt. They are a married couple, Mormon couple.
Yes.
He is gay. She does not know that. And
He doesn't even know it. He's so suppressed because of
Right.
the Mormon qualities. It's played by Lee Pace, by the way,
Yes,
who's
very
a
nice.
fantastic actor.
Right.
And the young woman, of course, has a
Denise-
relationship to
Yes,
Charlie.
Denise Gow,
which-
who we're gonna, as you can see her here photobombing me, on is Harper. And one of the things I found very interesting about her, as opposed to say Marcia Gay Harden, who played the role in the original Broadway production, is that her hair is very short, and she has this pixie-like figure. So she's like, twiggy. And I'm wondering, did her husband choose her
That's an interesting point.
because he figures, this is as close as I'm going to get to a guy.
It's possible, a boy,
and
perhaps.
to a boy, yeah.
I think her name is Denise Gough. I think it's
Gough.
pronounced Gough. It's a British
Okay.
name. She also won an Olivier Award for playing a drug addict. And this woman is drug-addled as well as the play
Right.
goes on. So this may be her métier. One doesn't
Yes.
know her forte.
Yes. But getting back to Roy Cohn, and later on in the show, we were going to each tell you our Roy
Well,
Cohn
we didn't
stories.
mention Andrew Garfield, who plays
Well, we're-
Spider-Man. Who plays? We have Captain America and Spider-Man
There we go.
on alternating streets, but Andrew Garfield plays Prior
Right.
Walter, who's
Right.
the
Well, Pryor, he is a victim of AIDS. He is basically the center of this play. And there is just so much going on, and you really have to admire how the playwright, Tony Kushner, puts it all together. Pryor finds out he's sick with AIDS. He has a boyfriend, Lewis. Lewis leaves him. And he is, and at the
He
end
was
of the
also
play...
photobombed. His name is James
Yes,
McArdle.
he
He's
did.
the other one
He did.
who walked alone.
And at the end of the play, he is visited by an angel. And we'll get to that a little later. This
Well,
is
this is Millennium, which is
This is Millennium, the
Millennium
first-
Approaches, which is the first.
the first,
of the
and
two
in my
plays.
opinion, the superior of the two. There is just a certain freshness about it, even though there is no, AIDS is no longer a death sentence. Even though we are so much more accepting of the gay community, you have gay marriage now, and the play still has a certain relevance to it, but just as an entertainment piece, just the interest of the characters, the interest in the story.
But you see,
it still,
the thing
it
that's
still
so
holds up.
important about this play is that there's a generation of young gay men who don't even know what it was like, and this play tells them.
And
this
this-
play
and-
really
and it-
tells them.
and
It's
it
the same way
captures
Normal
it.
Heart did, but I mean,
Yes.
it tells them the horrors.
But
that,
here in a broader sense, Nathan Lane is Roy Cohn. And I have to say, Nathan Lane is the gayest Roy Cohn I've ever seen. Ron Liebman, I think, was closer to Cohn himself.
Yeah.
And you were nice enough to send me a
Little piece
interview
of footage,
that
yeah.
Cohn did
we might be able to show it. We're not sure yet. We have to.
when at around the time that Angels takes place, and you look at Roy Cohn, and he is this nasty, scary looking, and then you look at Nathan Lane, who's by comparison so cuddly, and so this.
But he's not playing cuddly.
No, he's not, but he is
He's viperish. He's not playing cuddly
to an
at all.
extent. To an extent,
No,
but certainly not.
I bought it.
So, I bought it. I bought him as Roy Cohn, but this is the playwright's Roy Cohn. This is his concept of it, which is he despises the man, but he is fascinated by it.
Well, yeah, I
and
guess.
and that is that is what Lane brings to the table here. You're not going to like Roy Cohn, but
Well, I hope not.
you will. But you will be fascinated by him.
You'll find, my friend, that what you love will take you places you never dreamed you'd go.
And so Millennium, what happens, of course, if anybody doesn't know yet, is that
Right.
Prior Walter, it turns out, is the embodiment of several millennia of prophets. He is a prophet, and at this particular time, it's the prophet about this particular disease and what can be, how it's going to work out. And the play ends when the angel arrives, and then there's the second play.
Right. And you just are waiting for the words "to be continued" to pop on stage.
Yeah, it doesn't, but you are,
It does not.
Now, you saw it all in one day, and I saw it in
did.
2 days, one
I
right
did.
after the other.
And I certainly enjoyed seeing it in...
All 9 hours of it in one
yeah.
day? Oh,
It-
okay.
It,
I couldn't do it.
It worked for me. I just want to say a thing or two about the staging. What I found very interesting was how they, when they're moving the scenery about, things can be so automated on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And they had people coming out to do it, to move things around. They had people holding the angel up, which to me didn't work as well. I think the angel should be suspended.
They weren't cast as people. They're cast. They're wearing bodysuits that are covered in the sarcosis, kaposies, whatever those lesions were that everybody had, and so they are themselves victims of the disease, and they crawl around. They're bottom feeders. They never get to really stand up, or rarely get to stand up. They of course double and play other parts, but in this particular case, yes, they are seen.
And it stands out, and to me that really added to this. Is Marianne Elliott.
Yes, Marianne Elliott, again, a British. This is a British import.
Yes.
It's the only other two-night play. The other one we're
Lane
going to
is
see is
British.
Harry
Did you know
Potter.
that?
Say what?
Nathan Lane is British.
Yes, yes, Nathan Lane is British.
And this, to me, of the two plays, I really like Millennium approaches better. It's fresh. The characters are just so amazing, and the story grabs you. Moving over to Perestroika.
Well, moving over to Perestroika, I'm going to take over for a second because I saw Perestroika when it was in 1993, directed by Michael Mayer. It was done at NYU in a black box where the angel was on top of a stepladder and moved around.
Well, here the angel's on top of a shoulder and moves around.
Well, I have to tell you that that play moved me so. And what happened was, Millennium was written, and Perestroika didn't come for another 9 months to 11 months, something like that. And so there was a great distance between. We didn't see them together. We didn't. So
it's kind of like the Harry Potter series.
well, and there again, another double play from Britain. I don't understand that marketing idea very much. But anyway, this is different because these are two separate plays. Perestroika, and the word perestroika means millennium is something, a large period of time.
The year 2000 was approaching.
Yes.
Perestroika was what we called it when Russia, remember at this time,
It was a détente.
the Soviet Union
meant
was being
détente.
torn down.
Yes.
In fact, the play starts with this old Russian saying, well, we need a theory, we don't know how to go on. And that was big news at the time. Unfortunately, right now, that's the one disappointing thing, perhaps, that changed, that Perestroika has basically devolved, and we've almost got the Soviet Union back.
Well, or something. We've got fascism over there. Whatever we have. What we didn't talk about was the original. Kathleen Chalfant won a Tony for playing not only Ethel Rosenberg, but also the old rabbi who opens
The old
Millennium.
rabbi, a doctor,
Yes,
a whole...
and in the second scene, in the second play,
Susan Brown.
Susan Brown plays these roles, right?
Right, and as in the first play.
But she's quite amazing also. And Ethel is there to see the death of Roy Cohen. She has waited all this time.
Ethel's ghost.
Ethel
Ethel Rosenberg, she and her husband were spies for the Soviet Union. That was actually confirmed after Perestroika.
Yes.
They were put on trial. Cohen made sure they got the death penalty.
And he made sure she got the death penalty, more even than her husband, Julius. And it was a shanda, as they say. There was no reason for that woman to be put
We're running
to
a
death.
little low on time,
Okay,
so we're
well,
going to have
anyway,
to...
my preference is for Perestroika of the two plays. I found that if I had only had time to see one, I would have been caught up right away, like a little subplot at the beginning of what happened all the way before, and I would have been taken into this place of, here's what's going on, here's what we're going toward, and I kind of liked that. It's as if Millennium is all preparation for Perestroika, and I really like Perestroika better.
I feel just the opposite.
Okay.
Millennium is fresh. Millennium has these fabulous characters. Millennium has the story. Perestroika, I think, really the playwright loses his way. At one point, what's the angel's message? Mankind has to stop advancing. I mean, that's needless to say, Pryor rejects that. And he goes up to heaven, and God has abandoned heaven. And to me, it gets it gets a little silly. And then there is one character who we haven't.
I have to say something though, because that's an enormous idea. What you're dealing with there is someone who doesn't believe in God, and that's a big thing to throw in the middle of all this. You know, that when you're doing something about a plague, which is what AIDS was at the time, is there a God when there's a plague? Who's responsible? Obviously, the men are responsible for their own lives, but you know, everybody blames God in the long run. They blamed him for whoever. They blamed that person for the annihilation of the Jews in World War II.
But well, I blame the Nazis actually. But that again, to my mind, that doesn't work. It takes away from the more interesting part of the play, which is the earthbound characters. You could almost get rid of the angel in some ways, except that it gets Pryor through his disease, which is the part that I find. There's one character we did not mention, and that is Louis.
Belize.
Louis.
Well, we didn't mention Belize either. Belize is...
Oh, yes. Belize is Roy's nurse.
Roy's black nurse.
Hilarious.
And Roy is able to get a whole refrigerator full of AZT, and Belize steals it and gives it, and that's
well,
why...
Roy gives him some, too. But
gives
yes,
him
the play between him and Nathan Lane is priceless. You know, definitely the comic relief. But Louis is Pryor's boyfriend. He leaves him, and then somehow... he gets the moral high ground at the end of the play when he's accusing Joseph Pitt, who had worked with Cohen and had worked with anti-gay laws, to basically talk him down. Here's the guy who leaves his sick boyfriend, and somehow he has the moral ground. Again, these are one of the things that I feel
I find
makes
that
Perestroika. I think it's...
But because nothing is black or white. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Ethel says Kaddish
for Roy. We're out of time, Leslie, so we have to. Basically, the one thing I will say about Perestroika is that it has been rewritten, and I think it's much better. And I think all in all, this is the best production of Angels I have ever seen. I would give Millennium 5 playbills. I would give Perestroika 4 playbills,
which is a total of 9, and I would give the two of them together a total of 10.
Okay.
I find no fault with Millennium. I just like Perestroika better.
Well, I do find fault with Perestroika, but this is the best I've ever seen it. On YouTube, we will be doing a special segment of our personal Roy Cohn stories, because we're out of time today.
You've heard mine before if you've been watching.
You're going to hear it again. But you've never heard mine.
That's right.
And that is our show for tonight. When you go to the theater, look at Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.